Hey, Larken Rose here. There's lots of authoritarian crap going on that people should be upset by and outraged by and all that fun stuff. But on a regular basis, I see people misinterpreting something that happened and getting sort of more scared than they need to be. Another one just happened regarding the military draft. So I wanted to cover that because I think it's one more thing that scares the crap out of a lot of people without them really understanding what's going on. So just made the news that Congress passed a bill automatically registering all males between whatever 18 and 26, whatever the age range is, I don't freaking know, for the military draft. And there's lots of people going, that's World War III, it's the end of the world. Now, the military draft is insanely evil, registering anybody for it. The notion at all of forcing somebody to be a pawn in the warmongering machine is utterly evil. This particular piece of news, I think, is being misinterpreted by a lot of pro-freedom people, and understandably so, because it's very understandable to be worried about the psycho homicidal maniacs in Congress deciding to do warmongering and dragging off a bunch of people's kids to go be pawns in that evil. But this story, I think, is actually good news. Now, you're probably thinking, how the hell can that be good news? For many years, there has been a law, and you must obey the law, a law saying that all young adult males in the U.S., when they reach 18, I think it is, they must register for the draft. They must sign up to be dragged into being pawns of the war machine. And that has been unenforceable for many decades because huge numbers of people just don't do it. A lot of them don't even know there is that requirement, and the government does their propaganda game of trying to, don't forget to blah, 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 don't forget to sign up to be cannon fodder in the next warmongering lunacy that the political psychopaths engage in. And a lot of people they don't know it, or they do know it, and they're just like, who cares? And it's unenforceable because 80 gajillion people do it. And I haven't looked up the numbers recently, but I think it's basically nobody ever gets prosecuted for not registering for the draft, even though technically I think it's a felony to not register within whatever the time period they give you. You must volunteer to be conscripted. It's a stupid, insane idea. So when they come along and say, well, we just passed a bill that will automatically register all those young people, what that tells me is they know they're not doing it voluntarily. They don't care. They're not paying any attention. So it's basically Congress saying, well, we're just going to do the paperwork at our end instead of pretending we can nearly keep up with the fact that young people, for some odd reason, don't want to sign up to be pawns of the war machine. Gee, I can't imagine why not. So they're just going to sort of make it happen automatically because paperwork and stuff. And that'll just happen automatically. Now you don't have to do it. Well, what's the point of that? Because that way, they don't have to be public about the fact that millions and millions and millions of young people are basically doing this to the federal government because they come of age and they're just like, I'm not signing up for your warmongering bullshit. Well, okay, we'll just do it automatically so nobody has to be able to see how many people are just disobeying us. Because that is the biggest thing that ruling classes need the masses to not see is successful mass disobedience. And when it comes to registering for the draft, there has been very successful mass disobedience. In some cases, it's just mass obliviousness. They didn't even know they were supposed to, which I'm good with that too. And the ones who didn't know they were supposed to, it was like, screw you, I'm not signing up for that. And so if they have it be an automatic thing, then it ceases to be a potential story of, look at all these people who just didn't sign up. The law says you must sign up to be a pawn in the war machine. And millions of young men just like, nah, we're just not going to. And I know a bunch of them. And so that side of it, that side of the story to me is just funny. It's not concerning. It's people weren't signing up, so they're, well, we're just going to automatically have our system just do it. Now you just registered automatically because you weren't doing it when we told you to. To me, that by itself is just kind of funny. It shows mass disobedience or even just mass ignorance of the requirement. But a part of it that isn't so funny, which I want to get into because, again, I think it's something that a lot of pro-freedom people are unnecessarily scared about, is the concept of a military draft at all, which is absolutely evil and absolutely insane and always has been all over the world in any country ever. And it's one of those things that conservatives who pretend to give a crap about the Constitution are absolute spineless anti-freedom hypocrites if they support a military draft. Where the hell in the Constitution? Or wait, instead of me asking you, I'll have Daniel Webster, you can look him up if you don't know who that is, I'll have him ask on my behalf, quote, where is it written in the Constitution, in what article or section is it contained that you may take children from their parents and parents from their children and compel them to fight the battles of any war in which the folly or the wickedness of government may engage it? Who will show me any constitutional injunction which makes it the duty of the American people to surrender everything valuable in life, and even life itself, not when the safety of their country and its liberties may demand the sacrifice, but whenever the purposes of an ambitious and mischievous government may require it? End quote. Let me paraphrase that in the modern vernacular. Who the fuck do you think you are telling people you have to hand over your kids to go play our war games? Go fuck yourself. And here's the thing that matters. I don't think Congress is actually stupid enough to try to implement the draft again. I don't think they're that dumb. That's a bit of a guess. They might be that dumb. They might get that desperate. They might be that insane. And by the way, probably the only situation in which they would even try that is with Trump as president, rah, 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 with a bunch of supposedly conservatives, idiots who may go along with it. Because, well, if Trump wants it, because nobody's going to do that for Biden. Nobody's going to say, yeah, I'll proudly send my kid off to war to fight for that demented twit who can't form a complete sentence. But a bunch of delusional Trump supporters might be dumb enough to proudly send their kids off to die pointlessly for the Orange Fuhrer. Even with him in there, I think it's really unlikely they'll even try it. Here's the more important thing. Whether they try it or not, it will not succeed. They will not reinstate the draft and have it be successful. Because there are lots of people, I'm one of them, who aren't going to put up with that. Now, there are a lot of things government can do that people can protest and whine and say, I'm going to write to my congressman and tell him to... If somebody comes to arrest a young man because he didn't go off to be a war machine, I think it's absolutely moral and righteous and necessary to kill that person. The person who came to kidnap the young man for not doing it. I would do it myself. I would encourage everybody else to do it. There are a bunch of authoritarian crap that I put up with. Everybody sort of decides their own lines. Like, I have a driver's license so I don't get harassed by the fascists. I used to have a carry permit. Now I'm in Arizona. You don't need it. To have a firearm just so I don't get harassed by the fascists. There are some stupid things I'll go along with. There are some things that are beyond a line. Conscripting young men to go be pawns in a war machine, fuck you. I will kill you before I allow you to take somebody. And I know I'm not the only one. There are lots and lots of people who would absolutely do that. The moment they tried to reinstate the draft, lots of people will be having protests about it. I don't care about that. Some of us are going to be resorting to outright physical force to destroy any apparatus and any human beings who are trying to violently conscript young men into being cannon fodder on the other side of the world. Go fuck yourself. If you try that, you die, and you deserve it. And that backlash, even if it's from a tiny percentage of the population, and I don't even have like draft age, a son who's of draft age, but I would still do it myself. But if you're an actual father and you're like Trump or Biden, you're going to send them off to Russia or China or wherever you psychos decide to start a new war? Ukraine, maybe the Middle East, who knows? If you're an actual father, I'm going to say this very clearly. If you're an actual father and somebody comes to conscript your child to be a pawn in their war games, you better fucking kill the people who show up to do that. Or you're not a father. You're a spineless coward. And I don't care who you vote for, and I don't care what your political leaning is. Thankfully, there are a number of people, myself included, who absolutely have that attitude. This is one line, just screw you. You're not doing this. And the thing is, if a big percentage of people go, we're going to protest and whine, okay, they don't particularly matter. But if a conscription, here's where you sign up. All you young men better show up and sign up and bring all your belongings because we're shipping you off to the other side of the world. Anybody manning that office should die. In case I'm not clear enough, I'm saying it is absolutely moral and righteous and necessary for anything remotely close to freedom that anybody directly involved in trying to conscript people to become either murderers or dead people should die. Exactly the same as if some gang just kidnapped some young man and said, well, now you're going to be part of our gang and you're going to go do violent stuff because we told you to. The morality is identical. Whether you have a law backing it makes no stinking difference. Whether you call it the military or just a street gang makes no stinking difference. And the thing is, it wouldn't take anywhere near a majority to create a backlash which would immediately make a draft unenforceable and like a very nasty backdraft against anyone who did that. So, in case I wasn't blunt enough, any politician who votes to take your child and forcibly drag them off and send them into war on the other side of the world, if you kill him, you are absolutely justified in my book. Abso-freaking-lutely. The person who gives the order, yep, steal their child, send him off to play in our war games. You deserve to die if you do that. And some of you will. And that's the beauty of a little bit of resistance. Because if a few people engaged in that start to die, the rest of the cowardly, spineless assholes in Congress who would never in a million years put their own necks on the line or get anywhere near anything that actually endangers them will immediately back off and go, let's rethink this. We've reconsidered and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Anybody who tries to reinstate the draft should fear death. I don't know how much more clear I can be. Now, the protest thing, like if you want to say, we think this is really bad, okay, that's not what they're scared of. They know you don't like it. They know you don't like the idea. They don't care. As long as there's no actual negative consequence to them and you threatening to vote for somebody else in a few years, that's not enough of a consequence for them to care. They will feed the war machine and not give a crap what you think. But a tiny percentage of people who actually have the principles and the spine to say, nope, this is my line, or one of them anyway. You're not going to kidnap young men and make them go be cannon fodder. You get to die if you try that. That is the proper, moral, rational, and even constitutional, for those of you who still believe in that. If you believe in the American way and the U.S. Constitution, a government that comes to steal your children to send them into the war machine against their will, if you tolerate that, you will tolerate absolutely anything. And your children shouldn't have to pay the price for you being a spineless piece of shit. So if you're an actual father and they come to conscript or draft your son, you better fucking not let them. I'm not going to let them, and I don't even have a son of draft age. But it only takes a tiny percentage of people to make evil that's that blunt and bold immediately become unenforceable. So no, I'm not scared about this story of how they're slightly rearranging the registering for the draft process to make it automatic. Who gives a crap? But yeah, if they're dumb enough to actually try a draft, there better be a nasty, drastic backlash which ends that overnight, because they realize, yeah, if you push it over that line, there's going to be a war, And it's not going to be your war on the other side of the world. It's going to be right stinking here between people who at least kind of sort of sometimes believe in freedom and the evil shits who think they get to steal your children to make them pawns in the war game. Fuck that.